good morning everyone. Welcome to session 2, day 2 of the International Conference on the Future of Education, ICONFAT 2020. My name is Denise Kwasiokun and I'm the moderator for this special featured speaker session. Now this special session will feature 3 presenters whom we specially invited to join us and on this live session on Facebook Live, and they are Dr. Donnie Adams from the University of Malaya in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Dr. Monita Leavitt from the USA, and finally Dr. Maganat Shegebayev from Kazakhstan. I hope I got their names correct. Pronunciation is what I'm worried about. Right. These speakers will be sharing with us certain insights on leadership and teaching, especially in this new normal that we're all undergoing globally. Now, in terms of question and answers, you are all viewing on Facebook Live, so if you have any questions for our speakers, kindly type in the questions in the comment section, and after the 3 presentations, we will definitely have some time for question and answer. So do be patient. Okay? Now, let's begin. Let's begin, and let me introduce first of all our first presenter, who is Dr. Donnie Adams. Now, Dr. Adams is a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Education, University of Malaya in Kuala Lumpur. He obtained his PhD in Educational Leadership from the University of Malaya, and he is a recipient of the university's 2 competitive awards, the Bright Sparks Scholarship and the Excellence Award in 2016. Dr. Donnie Adams is actively involved in research and development work in the area of leadership and special educational needs and school-wide reformation and inclusive education agenda in Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Donnie Adams with this presentation, Leading Schools Through the COVID-19 Crisis.
A very good afternoon to everyone. Dr. Donnie Adams from the Faculty of Education. Today I will talk to you about a topic that is quite relevant in the present times, leading schools through the COVID-19 crisis. So I would like to thank first our organizers, the ICONFAT Conference 2020 organizers, for giving us this wonderful platform to share our thoughts, our experience and our research. So firstly, it's quite important for us to look at the number of schools in Malaysia. So for preschools, we have about 50,000 schools. For primary, we have about 7,700 schools. And secondary, we have about 2,200 over schools. So what is actually happening in the schools in the times of crisis? So if we look at this graph here, this is the graph of the COVID-19 crisis in Malaysia. So the Ministry of Health and the National Security Council of Malaysia has divided the phases of controlling the COVID-19 cases into 4. We have the movement control order, which began on the 18th of March. We have the conditional movement control order, which began on the 4th of May. We have the recovery movement control order, which began on 10th of June until 31st of December. But as of present situation today, 30th of October, the National Security Council has come up with a conditional movement control order only for 4 particular states in Malaysia, which is Selangor, Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya, and Sabah. So these states are the most critical in terms of COVID-19 cases, and this CMCO is from the 14th of October 2020 until 9th of November. And why are these phases in place? Because as of October 30th today, Malaysia has recorded 30,000 positive cases based on the report by the Ministry of Health, with 19 over 1,000 recovered cases and 246 cases. So when we picture this into a school context, how is schools coping with the COVID-19 crisis in Malaysia. So firstly, before the CMCO was in place on the 18th of March, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, announced in public that due to the spike in COVID-19 cases, Malaysia will now go into the Movement Control Order, the MCO. But the schools were not really affected at this time because the schools were already on a holiday from the 13th of March until the 21st of March. But the difficulty happened when the school holiday was extended until March 31st. The school holiday was expected to end on 21st, but due to the crisis of the COVID-19, it was extended to the March 31st. And this prompted the Sabah government, which is a state in East Malaysia, to mull over the idea of whether school holidays should be extended beyond 31st of March. So what do we do with schools? So do we reopen it or do we maintain it closed beyond 31st of March? And there's been a lot of debate online and in the media among the publics that how much of an impact will closing school cause to control the COVID-19 cases. Once the conditional movement control order was loosened and we went into the recovery movement control order, schools were eventually opened on the 24th of June. So what actually transpired between the 13th of March to 24th of June to the present day? How did school leaders cope with this COVID-19 crisis? So I actually wrote an article and this was published on the 7th of April online. This is the perspectives and concerns from few school leaders on how were they coping with the COVID-19 crisis, what sort of leadership practices were in place, and what were the challenges that they face. So you could read through this online article and there are some suggestions about school leadership practices from some very high-performing school leaders to how do we cope with COVID-19 crisis. What was the research advises about crisis management in schools during a pandemic? So according to Smith and Riley, crisis is a major test of school leadership. Our school leaders, they need to take responsibility. They need to know what needs to be done. This does not necessarily mean following the rules. Rules are for normal times. In a crisis, they need to get things done quickly and as soon as possible, even if it means breaking the rules. So here we are looking about attributes of school leaders. What do they do in this situation of COVID-19? So rather than following a fixed theoretical models, which probably will help a little in this situation, there has been a very little research done on the role of school leaders when they are confronted by a crisis. So this is where we did a methodology to find out about what is the role of school leaders during COVID-19, what is the practices, what is the challenge that they face. We did a qualitative approach. We administered some open-ended questions to 32 principals, and these 32 principals are high-performing school leaders. And these principals have received numerous awards for leading their schools in the past, from low achieving to high achieving, from low student outcome in terms of learning outcome to high learning outcome. So we actually administered the instrument to these 32 principals from government-funded secondary schools, and these schools were all located in rural areas, and their participation was strictly voluntary and anonymous. So this is what they have told us about. So the first thing is the challenges that they face is about homeschooling. It's a massive shock to both parents and children in terms of social life and learning. Parents were not prepared, children were not prepared. All of a sudden there was a transition from school to home, from learning in schools, in classrooms, to now learning at home. So it was a massive shock. They are not used to the idea of homeschooling. Another challenges faced by school leaders is the teaching is now moved to online, and this method of teaching online is untested and unprecedented. Internet connectivity is a problem faced by teachers and both students alike, and they are facing a difficulty of how to lead the teaching learning in their schools, especially in the transition from a classroom to an online platform. Another challenges that faced by our school principals is the attention that is needed for our special educational needs children. So these children are marginalized and they need special attention, they need special guidance from the special education teachers, as parents are not trained in how to educate and how to teach their children with special educational needs at home. So there is a challenge of increased inequality, as these children needs the extra guidance that they are not given and provided to. Another challenge that is faced by school leaders is about the limited interruption to teaching and learning. They have to ensure that devices are available to students and parents at home. So imagine that a home has about 4 kids. So, and all 4 children have to study and to go online at the same time. So the challenge is to ensure that teaching and learning still goes on without any interruption. All 4 children is able to log on online at the same time. So there was this challenge to ensure that there is adequate devices available to both students and parents at home. And they have to constantly keep in mind on how many children at home and how could the parents balance on having these devices available to their children for their learning. So this is one of the statements that was told to us, the principal shared to us. I must tell you that Zoom, Skype, and Google Meet, none was ever installed by my teachers and students. So the principals shared that they have not heard of this, or the teachers have not heard of this application. The application that they understood and used widely was Google Classroom, but in some schools, this Google Classroom was also not used very widely. So they are not very familiar about this video conferencing applications. Another challenges faced by the school leaders is there was no leadership course that prepared them for this crisis. They are in a very uncharted territory. There is panic among the head of departments in the school, and this is something that is new, something unexpected. A principal shared that they are lost. They are asking what do they do, what directives is available from the Ministry of Education. And so some of the principals suggest that in the midst of this COVID-19 crisis, these are some of the management practices, these are some of the things that they do in their school. So one of the most important things that they shared is very important to maintain a positive and courageous mindset. They look at the situation as an opportunity to handle things in a challenging situation. So instead of telling, I can't do it, they maintain a positive mindset and say, yes, they can do this. Another thing that they shared was it's important to build a positive relationship between the teachers and students. They need to trust the teachers. In this situation, one of the principals said they are not willing to force their teachers to do hard things that will make them feel pressured. So teachers are already pressured in this situation. They don't want to make it even more difficult for the teachers. They trust the teachers know what they are doing and they are doing to the best of their ability. Another principal shared about this situation, crisis situation, presents opportunity for them to review the school strategic plan and review the school achievement. So whatever targets that was set earlier in the year has to be revised. Whatever benchmark on the students' achievement will have to be relooked and revised. The curriculum has to be revised. The teaching plan has to be restructured to accommodate this crisis that is present at the moment. And some principals shared that the leadership style that they have practiced the most is on instructional leadership. And this was one of the most prominent approach that they used to sustain their remote school management. And why instructional leadership? So one of the things about instructional leadership is the need to monitor students' information and progress in learning. So many of the principals shared that they constantly monitor students, they constantly monitor the progress in the online teaching. They are also very concerned about teachers' well-being. So they look at ways and possible chances of improving teachers' well-being and how do they help teachers to lessen the pressures they face and solve problems to online teaching. They also ensure that the school operations and the community that includes the teacher, the parents, and the children are clean and healthy and safe. So they are constantly reminding their school community to adhere to the standard operating procedures, the SOP, adhere to the guidelines, adhere to health hygienes, and constantly keep them updated about the latest information and progress from the ministry. So that's all from me. So thank you very much for attending for this session. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave your questions in the comment box, and I will attend to it accordingly. So I will leave you with this quote from Smith and Riley. In times of crisis, school leadership is about providing certainty, hope, guidance, efficiency of resources, and ensuring open and trusted communication among the school community. So let us do our part together, work together rather than against each other. Let us make this school leadership and teaching and learning during the COVID-19 crisis a reality, and let us cope to the best that we can. So thank you everyone for your attention, and feel free to leave your comments in the comment box. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Donnie Adams. And like he has said, if you have questions for him, feel free to leave his comments. Feel free to leave comments in his YouTube presentation there, and also on Facebook Live, where we can actually ask him some questions live after this. Now, what Donnie has brought up, two key points that I've picked up. The fact that from the perspective of leadership, how they manage it was two key things: the mindset and also trust. And these two things are not just cognitive aspects, and I would like to highlight the fact that it deals with the human element. And this human element is precisely what our second speaker now, Dr. Monita Leavitt, is going to touch on. Now, before I proceed, let me briefly introduce Dr. Monita a little bit more, with a little bit more information. Now, Dr. Monita Leavitt is an author, international gifted education specialist, and an online instructor for Athena Advanced Academy in the USA. She has been a teacher for over 35 years, including 25 in gifted education. She consults and provides staff development on giftedness, both nationally and internationally. She is a member of the World Council for Gifted and Talented Children and the European Council for High Ability Children. Dr. Leavitt serves as a board member for the California Association for the Gifted, in addition to a collaboration with Gifted Talent Centers in Denmark, Germany, Italy, and Lithuania. Right, ladies and gentlemen, now let me pass this on to Dr. Monita Leavitt, who will be speaking on the human element. Over to you, Dr. Monita.
Thank you. Are you showing my video? I'm Dr. Monita Leavitt,
Yes.
and I thank you for this opportunity to present at your virtual conference today. I'd like to talk about why the human element is important for online teaching. Schools have changed, and teachers, students, and parents have changed with it. The coronavirus, with social distancing, has transformed education. Schools are now reliant upon technology as classes evolve to a hybrid or virtual education model. Teachers are changing the way they teach, students are changing the way they learn, and parents are also adapting to a new normal, the rapid change in communication and interaction. This change challenges teachers to leverage high tech with high touch. It compels them to be mindful and protective of losing close face-to-face interaction with others. Online learning offers the opportunity of individual or group learning experiences to a wide audience on a variety of topics. create a classroom environment that inspires children to learn, let's examine a 4-part collaborative mindset. First, course as communication of knowledge. Teachers need to match the curriculum to their students, offering them a wide variety of learning opportunities. They need to differentiate by scaffolding the content, process, and product to address individual learning needs. Teachers should focus their students' effort on rigorous and challenging learning that reflects their interest, learning style, and ability level. A struggle can be good. It means that new learning is going on. However, the challenge should not be too easy so the child is bored, nor too difficult so the child cannot achieve success. Teachers need to know at what level their students are functioning at all times. This can be achieved with ongoing assessment. Assessment can be both formal and informal, and teachers can involve students to design the assessment tool. Students should have opportunities to participate both individually and in small groups. They should be given time to respond to each other's written and verbal responses. Their feedback can prove to be invaluable to their peers and in developing a peer relationship. Connecting course content to the real world can encourage relevant and meaningful learning. Student projects should reflect choice and also be presented to a real audience. Second, teacher as facilitator. Teachers don't need to provide all of the information in class. Rather, they can facilitate learning by coaching for success. By recognizing and appreciating individual student effort, they build a relationship of mutual respect and listening, making allowances for individual needs. For example, if a student is shy about using the microphones, they can be encouraged to write their answers in the chat. Create a student-centered, safe environment where students take intellectual risks and there is no bullying. Involve them in making decisions about the course and in setting realistic deadlines. Ask your students to share their ideas, opinions, and information. Reinforce that it's okay to make mistakes and learn from failure. Figure out what motivates your learners and set motivational traps. Celebrate their achievement, laugh, and have fun learning with one another. Be accessible. Keep everyone informed by giving timely feedback. Use class time to reflect and model a respect for different kinds of thinking. Take time to check for understanding if learning is taking place. Offer office hours for students and parents who might need that extra bit of help. Offer collaborative opportunities for teacher and student, as well as for student and student. Encourage discussions to pursue additional information and to extend the learning. Ask your students to share their ideas, information, and opinions. Be flexible and adjust the course content and its pacing to meet your students' needs. Be positive and proactive. Praise student effort. Third, student as active participant. All students need to accept and abide by the classroom rules. Respect and acceptance of differences in others is necessary in order to be part of the learning community. It is important for students to find others who they can relate to, children who think in similar ways and share common interests. Students need to learn how to take responsibility for a new way of learning based on technology, whether it's email, threaded discussions, Zoom, Skype, etc. They need to develop the skill of troubleshooting technology problems, because equipment can vary from student to student. Students also need to develop a growth mindset, a positive, I can do it attitude. If the student's responsibility to stay organized, be prepared for classes, and work in a designated place for study at home. Remember, learning matters. Every assignment and deadline counts. Every effort and work is noticed. Encourage students to advocate for themselves by asking questions to clarify what is being asked of them. Last of all, parent as partner in education. Be informed about your school district's technology plan for classroom learning. Accept that technology is now a critical part of your child's education. Have your child teach the technology to family members. Be sure your child is not watching something on the internet that they shouldn't be. Monitor their assignments and deadlines, but don't do the work for them. Every child should share in the responsibility and set a personal goal for what they want to learn. Be sure to obtain equipment, such as a Chromebook, from your school district if you cannot provide it, so your child has the tools to succeed. Check your emails regularly. Communication with the teacher is critical. Be supportive of your child's teacher. Maintain that high touch by taking time to nurture your family's relationships as well as the relationship of your child and teacher. Now, there are reasons for optimism. Even if students may not have the same background, be self-regulated or motivated to keep up with their classmates, online learning encourages them to become active learners when presented with real-life opportunities and support. Although the technology is not seamless and there will always be glitches, you will become more comfortable and confident troubleshooting with your computer and the software program. Your child will reap the benefits of how technology can enrich and extend learning. And by working in collaboration, teachers, parents, and the child together can develop a relationship that guides the child to become a lifelong learner. So, first connect with your students or child, and then connect your students or child to the information through technology. Remember, computers don't inspire, people do. Thank you for this opportunity to present and enjoy the virtual conference.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Monita. And you've made some very pertinent points here of how, no matter how technology advances in this world, well, we are still relevant. The human element in terms of our mindset, and I think you showed very clearly how collaboration, that collaborative framework that you showed, it's so important today. Now we're going to move on now to our third speaker, Dr. Maganat Shegebayev, who is an assistant professor of Kemet University's College of Humanities and Education in Kazakhstan. Dr. Shegebayev has over 20 years of teaching and administrative experience. He has won awards for academic and service achievements from his home institution and the Ministry of Education in Kazakhstan. Dr. Shegebayev has co-authored and authored a number of international publications. He is also involved in various educational and research projects in Central and Southeast Asia, North America, and the European Union. Now let us now listen to Dr. Shegebayev as she shares with us his insights into teaching online, especially focusing on practices, opportunities, and challenges in his higher education context. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Maganat Shegebayev.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my presentation titled Teaching Business Communication Online, Practices, Opportunities, and Challenges. I will briefly talk about my experience of teaching this course online and what it entails, although I found from teaching other academic courses that those features could be common across the board. My name is Maganat Shegebayev, and I'm a faculty member at Leavitt-USA in Almaty, Kazakhstan. Thank you for joining. The 21st century poses some new professional challenges, particularly to new graduates who are entering the job market. Besides their primary specialization, there are other skills and requirements that have to be met. In particular, those are the abilities to communicate, to collaborate, to think critically, among some others. However, communication, in my opinion, stands out as perhaps the most essential one. Communication happens constantly, at any level and in different forms, especially considering all that variety of technology we have at our disposal today. We communicate very often with people we have never met or will probably never meet, yet the outcomes of communication could still be significant, such as, for instance, a new business deal, a completed project, or a new employment. Therefore, this course looks into what business communication is today. In addition, we consider items such as corporate culture, main principles of business ethics, and also look into some best practices, because the success of any course lies in practical application of the skills and knowledges learned. Finally, since we live in a rapidly globalizing world, cross-cultural awareness is taken into careful consideration. There are several course learning objectives, including, for example, understanding the importance of becoming an effective business communicator in today's changing workplace, using writing effectively for business purposes, preparing and delivering an effective business presentation, and other such practices for different audiences and contexts. Switching to online teaching was the major paradigm shift, and it brought along some new challenges, but at the same time it also outlined a wealth of untapped opportunities for teaching and learning. From my teaching experience, the main challenges lie in the following areas. Miscommunication. Being on a distance inevitably increases gap in communication, where some key information or details could be lost or missing, and a lot of such examples, which in turn leads to misunderstanding. And these could be magnified by a whole variety of technical issues. Which may include anything beyond our control, from poor connection to a gadget failure. Therefore, intrinsic motivation of a learner may become affected for various reasons and can lead to poor academic performance. And finally, the most important way of establishing learner rapport, which is giving constructive and timely feedback, could be affected as well. So, what could be some possible solutions to those potential and real challenges? There are several, in my opinion, and the first one would be introducing yourself and getting to know your students well, by name, by sharing some interesting facts from life, and some other facts to get to know each other well. Secondly, setting the class rules clearly in the beginning of the course for consistency, so everybody knows what the rules of the game are. Third will be offering extra tutorials and office hours, and the importance of teacher guidance or instructional scaffolding, which were described in many researchers' work, such as Vygotsky, would be a way to cater for students' individual concerns or queries, and also to ensure their learning is taking place. Another and actually great opportunity lies in choosing and utilizing suitable learning management systems such as Moodle, Google Classroom, or any other. With proper instructional design and technical support, an LMS could be converted into an exciting and interactive virtual classroom. Some other possibilities would include involving additional technical and various applications such as WhatsApp, Padlet, Kahoot, and many others, where the students can refer to a teacher or their peers for feedback or explanations. These are great tools for class activities as well. The next one would be customizing and adopting learning tasks, where tasks are explained clearly, followed by a sample, grading criteria, and a rubric, and a set, and it has a set clear deadlines. Okay. And finally, in this list, giving prompt and detailed feedback is also very important, because this will boost students' motivation. But again, the feedback should be as individualized and specific as possible, so the student has a clear idea how they are progressing or what needs to improve. What could be some possible solutions to those potential and real-life challenges? Well, for instance, utilizing a variety of Zoom functions available, such as, for instance, breakout rooms for group work, using pause or a board for in-class work. And this could help in keeping the classes more student-oriented, which is really important. Secondly, designing out-of-class activities, for example, group projects. And those would be the best way to divide the class material, to review it, to revise, and also let the students practice independently and in cooperatively. Using interactive and relevant videos and podcasts not only for new information, but it will also allow the speaker change in the class, shifting from the instructor to a video host. And I think that would be really important for class dynamics, where there's like a domination of one party, like in terms of speaking. Bringing in the case studies from life, this would be a good learning material. This could be reinforced by practical application of the material learned, for example, in a course project. And I believe that recording class lectures for later use is a very efficient tool for students to revise the class material, because they can independently refer to the past lecture by watching the video recording of that particular class. So, what would be the opportunities that online teaching can offer? Firstly, it's combining proper technology and relevant experiences that may open a whole new horizon for the new sources of information and knowledge. It will also give a possibility for more flexibility in the synchronous and asynchronous types of learning. Therefore, the principles of blended learning and flipped classroom could be practiced and utilized for regular, meaning offline, mode of teaching as well. Finally, the role of a teacher as facilitator and educational guide would empower instructors with new ideas and ways to constantly revise their practices and grow professionally. Thus, their presentation has given a brief insight into teaching this subject in the new realities. This could be true for many other courses, and therefore keeping to practical, pedagogical, and instructional approaches together with the right motivational strategies and technological advancement may seem to overcome any challenges of online education. However, the role of rapport clear communication and comprehensive feedback becomes of particular importance. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Maganat Shegebayev. Now, he has actually highlighted and he has continued this conversation on teaching online right appropriately from what Dr. Monita has shared with us, the human element. Again, I see the human element being very prominently displayed here in terms of challenges that the teaching faculty might face, and it goes across the curriculum, whether you're teaching in higher education or in elementary school. I believe the challenges are not very much different, whether I'm in Malaysia or in Kazakhstan or the US, right, or anywhere else in the world. Now, thank you very much. The three of you have actually highlighted very, very prominent and I would say relevant questions in teaching and leading in this new normal. Now it's time for question and answer. Right, the very first question here goes to Dr. Donnie Adams, and the question has to do with well-being. Now, apart from the importance of teachers and students' well-being, how can we ensure that school leaders' well-being are also taken care of in this pandemic situation? Yes, Dr. Donnie?
Right, so thank you very much for the question. Firstly, I'm actually quite surprised with that question because often when we talk about leading schools through the COVID-19 crisis, the center of attention is on the students, the attention is on the teachers, and the question of how principals could lead the schools, how they could ensure teachers' well-being, how they could ensure students' well-being. But this question was actually caught me by surprise because not many talk about the principal's well-being. So here you have the person that is being put on a hotspot and he or she has to make decisions fast in very uncertain times, and the decision has to be careful and well thought of, and it has to be done fast and swiftly. And how about this person's well-being? So that is a very unique and relevant question, and I thank the person that asked this question because it's always good to look at two sides of the coin. We have the teachers and students' well-being, and we also have the principals' well-being. So how do we ensure school leaders' well-being is taken care of? So in my opinion, I think that it's very important for the Ministry of Education to ensure that there is a form of support system available for our school leaders. And when I mean by support system, as in they have a network of school leaders, they have a collaboration or a team of school leaders who could exchange thoughts, who could exchange ideas with one another, who could exchange decision making among one another. Because in a group, a pool of school leaders, you have those who are very experienced and you have those who just started their careers. So having this networking will really help in a way that they feel that they are not alone. In a way, it will help to lessen the stress, as in they have people to bounce off ideas off and to share their concerns and decision making with. So I think that building that collaborative support system is crucial and vital and must be done as soon as possible. And another practice in school leadership, we call it distributed leadership. So the principals should know that the entire leadership of the school is not centered on one person. Those were the days in the past where we call it heroic form of leadership. Now we have distributed leadership where the task of leading the school is distributed equally to the senior assistants, to the head of departments, and to leading teachers in the school. So I think that you have distributed leadership and collaborative networking platform will help address the principal's well-being to a certain extent.
Right, thank you, Dr. Donnie. And I hope that the person who asked this question have got the answer. And you brought up, Donnie, some very important, very key word actually here, collaboration. Yeah, and that brings us to the second question, which is actually addressed to Dr. Monita. Dr. Monita. Now, in your 4-part collaboration mindset that you presented earlier, you mentioned about promoting active engagement. So the question is, how can teachers help learners engage with their peers who do not have that same kind of motivation to engage, I would say here, during online learning? Yes, Dr. Monita.
Thank you for the question. Yes, so for the 4-part online learning, it encompassed first course as communication of knowledge, and then teacher as facilitator. Third was the student as an active participant, and fourth, parent as a partner in education. And given that we have that team in place, we need to make sure that the child feels connected to the online learning and to their peers who are the classmates. And because it's virtual, it's harder to connect. We don't have that face-to-face time. And so it is up to the teacher to individualize and to personalize the online learning. And in doing this, by bringing out the child's interest or their experiences, flexible grouping, talking about the different children's various learning styles, the students will get to know each other. And they will come to know each other as classmates or playmates, even though it's virtual. But it's a way for them to have their individuality met and recognized and heard. And it's a way for the teacher to get to know them and to address and motivate them either intrinsically or extrinsically. So again, learning matters, and the children need to be connected to the teacher as well as to their classmates, and it can be through these various choice, interests, flexible learning, and learning styles.
Right, thank you, Monita. Yes, again,
You're welcome.
Again, that connectedness is very important again, right? I like the words that you're having bringing up, collaboration, connectedness. Well, it's an irony that we are so far apart and yet this word keeps coming up. Moving on to Dr. Maganat Shegebayev, your question here, the question that has been, we have drawn up for you from the audience, talks about remote teaching. The fact that we are all, most of us are teaching in situations in which the courses or the subjects are not designed to be taught online. So in this kind of remote teaching or working environment, how can we encourage teachers to re-engage discussions related to the 21st century skills that you brought up earlier? How can we engage teachers, or how can teachers re-engage with this in a more transformative manner? Over to you.
Well, thank you for the question. And again, collaboration, communication, discussion are the keywords in here. And I think for engaging or re-engaging into the discussion, one should initiate that discussion. It could start at any level. It could be at personal level. It could be a platform like this, but with an excellent platform for educators from different countries to meet and discuss things. And you see, I was really impressed by one thing after the presentation I watched, and including my fellow colleagues today, that we're basically talking about the same things. Being different in different countries, being in different realities, facing different realities, but we are talking about, as our dear host outlined, we're talking about human element, for example. We're talking about technology. We're talking about motivation. So these are fundamental principles in education. And what I think should be going on, I think educators from different countries should be initiating that discussion. And again, it could be at personal level, it could be at international level, it could be at the national level, country level. Okay, and where teachers meet and discuss and share their experiences. And I think through this kind of collaboration, we can, as I said, share our best practices and implement. For example, I'm gaining a lot of interesting ideas which I'm hoping to implement back to my class. You see, and again, I'm very thankful to organize this conference, and I think in this respect, it's
an excellent venue for this. Plus, what I think would be important is to still base our practices on what has been developed already through scientific approaches, through different research, through developed by experts in this field. Like for example, the ideas of constructivist approach in education that were developed like around 100 years ago by scientists such as like Vygotsky and Piaget. But still, constructivism is about where students create knowledge, working on creating their knowledge. And what we can do now, we can apply technology available to reinforce that creation of the knowledge, okay, to make it stronger. And what we'll need to add as educators is, like again, human approach, like for example, motivation, giving like good feedback, so combining different practices that work in the classroom. Okay, so in this respect, teaching job becomes a bit more challenging, but at the same time a bit more more rewarding. You see, because you can apply different ideas, different approaches, different knowledges. Okay, and as I said, everything lies into initiating that discussion. So at any level, if we start discussing, we start talking, exchanging ideas, and I think that would be a big step towards overcoming any possible challenges of online education.
Right, thank you. And I think, yes, that collaboration again comes up, right? We're not alone. And I like the fact that I believe we're all in the same storm, that the storm that the pandemic has brought us all. But I think the question is again, are we all in the same boat? Now, I believe we have about 5 minutes left, so I'm just going to throw one question to all three of you. And this current pandemic situation, education has been described as, the great education reset, a disruptive education. In your opinion, in your own fields, or in your own cultural context, do you think we are moving forward, or are we taking a step backwards? And I'm going to limit all of you to only 1 minute each, because we only have roughly about that much time left. Yeah? Right, Dr. Donnie Adams, would you like to start?
Thank you for the question, Denise. In my opinion, we are definitely moving forward. We have discovered new ways of teaching and learning. Students have adapted new ways of learning. Parents have understood and embraced their new responsibilities. So I believe that we are into the new normal as in not in a pandemic sense, new normal as a new way of teaching and learning, and we are truly into a 21st century way of teaching and learning now. And I think COVID-19 has opened a lot of boundaries and opened a lot of limitations and embraced a lot of changes.
Right, that's from Dr. Donnie Adams. Monita, what do you think? Are we moving forward or backwards?
I have no idea. I really don't know, and I think we are struggling, and struggle can be a good thing. It doesn't have to be bad. But I think we're trying to figure out what does work and then do it again. If it doesn't work, we're throwing it out. I think parents are getting a better understanding of the job of a teacher. And I think they're appreciating the skills and strategies that teachers have. And I think that teachers, in turn, are understanding the importance of involving parents more in the child's education. So for all of that, that's a positive. As for the individual child, I think there's a lot going on in their head. And I'm not sure that they have it down pat because of all the hybrid models. And here in the United States, we're saying, okay, you can go to school. Okay, no, you can't. The COVID numbers just went up. And every state is doing their own thing. So we are in a state of confusion and struggle. And, hopefully we will come through this and be stronger.
Yeah, I like that optimism. Yeah, that's how we should think. And I think in Malaysia, we're the same thing. We were back in school, and now in the past week, we've gone back into partial lockdown. So school is again from home. All right, let's go on to Dr. Maganat. What have you got to say?
that's the reality we have to face now. And I think all of us may have different recipes on what to do and how to use the current situation and what to learn from it. But again, as I think it's how we can overcome these challenges, again, by collaboration. That's a key, again, as I said, key word, collaborating, discussion, creating maybe different platform for discussion like we're having today, for example. Okay, so we don't feel isolated, because I know from students sometimes they may feel, for example, isolated being just, being in the remote being. And I'm sure a lot of my fellow colleagues, teachers feel the same way. Okay, because our job before was built on like human interaction in the classroom, and now all of a sudden we're different in different places. So collaboration, communication, discussion, sharing ideas, sharing best practices, I think in my opinion would be the first important item. And the second would be, of course, learning more about technology. So, crisis times are always good for education, So I forgot to say that, but during the crisis, invest into education. I think that's a perfect, perfect timing for teachers, for educators to upgrade their technical knowledge, for example, to learn more about technology. Now, this year was really a blast in terms of learning about all this wealth of technology. I think even things when get back to normal, I think a lot of it, what we learned this year, will still be used. Okay, so it will be different. Okay, so yeah, so collaboration would be again the key idea here. So together we stand.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Maganat. And I believe that's very, very relevant. And I think to all of you viewers out there, you would agree that our three speakers here have actually highlighted very, very key essential facts about teaching and learning online and in this kind of pandemic situation. Collaboration, we're not alone. Whether you're a leader, whether you're a teacher, or whether you're a learner, the fact is we're not alone. Right? And that is one message that we need to send out. Technology is important, we acknowledge that. But again, the human element is just as important. So, ladies and gentlemen, from this very platform, we hope that we've shared with you some very, very real challenges and struggles from different parts of the world, but yet we notice that we're not alone. We share certain common problems, and perhaps our solutions may be the same if we are willing to collaborate, right? And a very big thank you to our three speakers today, Donnie, Monita, and Kazakhstan. Thank you for joining us, and it has indeed really been an insightful experience and great to have you all. Now to our viewers, this conversation does not end. Go on to the YouTube sections where you can find Donnie, Maganat, and Monita. Continue to interact with them there. If you have questions, continue it there, right? We will now have to take a break from live streaming. The conference does not end yet, ladies and gentlemen. Do go on to view all the presentations, the video presentations. There are more than 100 recorded presentations out there on YouTube. So we've given you a longer break today. Come back for a final keynote at 3 o'clock by Dr. Sazali Yusuf, who will be talking about teacher leadership. Okay? And followed immediately by the closing ceremony. And during the closing ceremony, for those who've been asking about certificates, well, during the closing ceremony, there will be a link, a feedback form that will be posted in the Facebook and comment section. And if you fill that feedback form and you submit it to us, you will get a certificate of participation. So do continue this conversation. Thank you to Donnie, to Maganat, and to Monita. Great having you. I hope we keep in touch. Stay connected, everyone, and see you later at 3 p.m. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye. Yes, this is our tech team here who's been doing the work behind the scenes.
Thank you, everyone. Superb job.
Thank you.
Good job. Terima
Thank you.
kasih.
Yes.
Wow, so many of you all. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow, nice to see all of you. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, right. And thank you once again, and we'll hope to keep in touch and see you another time. Hopefully, face to face in 2 years' time. The third International Conference on the Future of Education. We'll see you in Penang, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.